of this term of council. So I am looking for the appointment of a chair to the position for the 2019 to 2022 term of council. Do I have a mover recommendation?
I recommend Trevor Sipe, the Deputy Reeve, as having the most leadership abilities for this new council. On past councils, he's qualified. I'll put his name forward.
So moved by Councillor Faulkner, seconded by Councillor Palmer. All those in favor? Okay, so Reeve, if you can take the chair.
Okay, so we have, I need a confirmation of the agenda. So Councillor Van Hitterson moves, Councillor Heffer seconds. All those in favor of that motion? Carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? None noted. Okay, so this is as the clerk has mentioned, this is a property standards matter with regards to the property 3991 Belgrave Road, concession 8, part north, part lot 42, East Walnush Ward, owned by Ranko Markalevich. So at this point, what I'm going to, how this will work is that the municipality's bylaw enforcement officer will have a chance to provide committee with the information that with regards to the notice of violation, the order, any information that he has to provide the committee, and then the appeal from the property owner. Ronco will have his chance to provide the committee with his determination of the events and what his knowledge and information that he would like to present to the committee. And then we will, and then at the end, a decision of this committee will basically be binding, following obviously the appeal to the higher courts if so choose. But that's obviously the process in which we'll run. So at this point, is there any questions from members of the committee at this point? No? Okay, so let's we'll call Bruce, Bruce Brocklebank, that's the municipal bylaw enforcement officer, to talk to the committee.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to give you. Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm going to present, I guess, what we call my evidence or my paperwork as far as the notice and order and everything that's been sent out to the property owner. And then when I'm done with my portion, I guess if you have questions, I can answer them. And then after that, the owner will have his opportunity to present his, I guess, evidence, if that's what you want to call it. So, on August 27th of 18, we received a complaint about the condition of the property. At that time, I think you'll see right the first one here, which is property information. that's the legal description, and the owner of the property has, says owner's name, Ranko. If I correct it, or if I say this wrong, I apologize, Markelijevic. So it shows that this gentleman owns the property that's in question. The next piece of paper is a copy of the registered letter. It's so you can track your letter. And that was registered on, let me see, on the 10th of October, which coincides with your notice of violation. Are you following along with me or no? Yeah, I'm going too quick. You're good? So these pictures are pictures of his property. And they were taken September 18th, as it states in the notice of violation. And as you can see from the pictures, there's unlicensed trailer, there's rubbish, there's debris, there's machinery, building materials. There's a whole, what I said, a whole slew of stuff there that violates our property standards bylaw. So once the notice was sent out to the owner of the property, on the 15th of October, I received a copy of the notice that was sent out with an email that was sent to myself and Dwayne Evans. And it's from the owner of the property, and it's acknowledged that he got the letter or the notice. And then he's making some claims on that email, which you can read. So after that was, the time was up, October 22nd on the notice, I went out to do another inspection of the property, which was on November 1st. And that's the order to remedy. And it also includes an appeal with the order. And you can see pictures again of the property on the 1st of November and the condition that it was in at that time. And that also was sent out a letter to the owner of the property, which was picked up on the 11th of November at the post office. And then on November 28th, we received an appeal from the owner of the property. And that's where it has gotten us today. These are here to hear the appeal. And then there's a report to council, which I was asked to do. It'll be further back there. And then the last is pictures of the property today, which there's snow on the property, so you're not going to see stuff laying on the ground or anything like that as far as, if it's under the snow. And then the last is a bylaw that appoints myself as property standards officer. That's also included.
Is there anything else, Bruce, that you'd like to mention to the committee?
No, not that no. So, that's my evidence as far as the notice that was sent out, the order that was sent out, pictures of the property and the condition that's in. And, they are violations of, our property standards bylaw. And if you look in the notices or in the orders, it sets out the sections in our property standards, the violations.
I'm wondering because it is a new committee and I'm wondering if I could ask staff to provide a copy of the property standards bylaw to the committee, just so that we,
I have one with me.
okay. I just want to make sure that the committee has a copy of it as well, just so that we have, it's noting stuff in here to that, so we should make sure we have a copy
Yes,
of
it
that.
would coincide with, like if you look on your notice or for your order, it will coincide with the section from the property standards.
So while staff are getting that, is there any questions for Bruce based on the information that has been presented or anything before we ask Councillor Faulkner?
Through you, Chair. Bruce, how many occasions have you had to attend this property? 4 times? In your process of these duties?
I've been there actually, yes, 4 times.
Okay, is there any other questions for Bruce at this point? By law enforcement officer? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So I'll call Ronco to the chair to provide information to the committee with regards to the appeal of the violation for the property standards complaint. Go ahead, Ronco.
I believe that the legality of this body and this proceeding ought to be addressed first. Corporation of the Township of North Huron asserts that the Property Standards Committee has been established through the passing of bylaw 111/2018. One version of this bylaw is dated February 17, 2018, and purportedly sealed and signed by Bernie Bailey Reeve and Dwayne Evans, CAO clerk. There's no record of council meeting on February 17, 2018. And Bernie Bailey was not, at least not publicly, part of the administration on that date. The second version that is supposed to be a true copy is dated December 17, 2018, and signed by Bernie Bailey Reeve and Dwayne Evans, CAO clerk, but without the corporate seal. These facts make both of them a forgery and bodies constituted by either of them without any legal power or authority. In addition, the council have violated the council and committee procedure bylaw 116/2017 when it failed to adopt terms of reference for the committee as required by section 5.58D, and under the terms of reference establish the purpose, goal, and authority of the committee as required by section 5.8 F clause I. And name recording secretary of the committee as required by section 5.8 F8, subclass 8. Based on the conduct of previous council and this current one demonstrated thus far, I do not have any faith in any member of this committee's intention of providing a good and a transparent government, since trust is earned, not demanded, intimidated, or bullied.
Sorry, Ronco.
Just a point of order. None of this information is before us. As far as I can see, according to the complaint and the property standards that we're to deal with today.
Okay.
I'm not sure, it's not on our agenda or not on our information. So it's not relevant right at the moment that I can see to dealing with the subject matter that we're dealing with. Just a point of order.
Okay. So Ronco, just want to clarify. So I understand from what you've read currently to date, to time now, you have a concern about the committee as its whole. This committee has been established by bylaw. At this point, if you've got a concern with the committee, it's not here that you have that discussion. So the committee has been established. This should go to the property standards complaint that we're talking about. If you have a concern with regards to how the committee was struck, or if you believe there's a violation of some type, that complaint is to deal with at the municipal council level, not the property standards committee. So the property standards committee has been appointed by bylaw, and therefore this should only be about the incident with regards to the property standards issue that your property has. So if we could keep it to that and that alone.
No, we cannot, because it will violate Statutory Powers Procedures Act, Section 3.1.
So
What does that state?
So hold on. So you've appealed to a body.
Yes.
That
I
body,
haven't seen a legitimate body yet.
the legitimate body is by bylaw.
Which bylaw? Which version of the bylaw is the right one? When was that clarified?
So staff is going to provide you a copy of the bylaw that states right now.
That's just the bylaw, and it has the corporate seal.
So why was I given 2 copies that didn't comply with the true copy?
I can speak to that, but I just need.
Who can speak to that?
I think we're getting.
So that is a discussion for another day. That if you have an issue with that process where you got 2 copies or whatever, that is a complaint that will be dealt with by the municipal council as such. Today, we are talking about property standards appeal. That is the only thing we are going to be discussing here today. So if you have information, evidence, something that you need to provide the committee today with regards to the property standards, the committee will take that under advisement with their under advisement. We are not going to talk about anything else other than the property standards complaint that is in front of us. Are
As
you
long as
clear?
you're aware with this, you are violating Statutory Powers Procedures Act, Section 3.1. 3.1. That says, to afford to the parties to the proceeding an opportunity for a hearing before making a decision.
So we are having the hearing. This is the
And you're
hearing.
denying me the opportunity to present my arguments.
Sorry, order. We are not denying you the ability to provide your argument. We're specifically stating it needs to be evidence regards to the property standards complaint.
It is.
It's not direct. It's not, that conversation is not a direct, you're not providing us evidence regards to the violations that we have in front of us. What you're providing us is circumstantial discussion about bylaws and stuff that has nothing to do with the actual violation. That's what we want to talk about. If you're concerned about how we were appointed or whatever, that's a different process. That's not today. Am I making myself clear?
Yes.
Okay.
And you're still violating Statutory Powers Procedures Act.
If you believe that is the case, then you have the powers that be to go to to a different body to argue that.
So is this agenda part of the
The-
discussion or not?
The agenda that is of the property standards complaint?
Yeah.
The agenda is presented. It says the appellant from the property owner, the appeal from the property owner.
Then
You are
I have
giving your
comments
time.
about the agenda.
What's that?
I have comments about the agenda.
Does it have to do with the property standards matter that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Continue.
Published agenda for this meeting of the Property Standards Committee undoubtedly exemplifies bias that it contains only the following option for committee's consideration. Item 5.1.3 on page 1, which suggests that the decision has already been made. And further, that the Township of North Huron Property Standards Committee modified the property standards order dated November 9, 2018 by extending the time for the property owner to achieve compliance with the order. It is also a violation of section 15.2, 3.1 of the Building Code Act and makes this hearing a farce. Who had the authority to decide that paragraph 1 of that section does not apply?
Point of order.
Councillor Faulkner?
Thank you, Chair. There again, I state that's not about what's in front of us as far as information. I can personally say I take disrespect for that, for the comments saying that I've made my mind up already or sometimes. I haven't made my mind up, sir.
Agenda says you have.
I haven't heard your information yet.
Okay,
Agenda says you have only one option to consider.
We have several options as considered as part of our bylaws.
Agenda says only one.
We can confirm, amend, or suspend.
Not according to the agenda.
What agenda?
so
It's not stated in our agenda.
Beg your pardon?
Our responsibilities to take this into consideration are not in the agenda. Those are our responsibilities. They're not in the agenda written.
You don't have any other option to consider but what is on the agenda.
okay,
And what is
So our
on the
agenda is the
to
property
extend
standards.
the time.
order. So listen, so the agenda that we have in front of us states what we're going to talk about. These are recommended motions. They aren't necessarily required. They don't have to be motioned or not. It's recommended. At the end of the day, this is an appeal hearing. This is an
By
appeal
what-
hearing.
By what rule can you change the agenda?
We're not changing the agenda. The agenda is the property standards matter. All of the items underneath the agenda are for discussion purposes only. They're not set in stone that is the motion that's going to happen. There's lots of motions in committees and stuff that those are recommended and they're not followed through on. What I'm saying is the agenda is call to order, election of the chair, confirmation of agenda, declaration of pecuniary interest, and then the matter. The matter is being discussed. We've heard now the municipal representative. We are now hearing the appellant. Once that we hear your information, sir, we will take all that information into account and determine what option we want to use. And there is obviously lots of options. But until we hear the information that you want to give, we can't determine what we want to do. So could you please stick to the information that we need to hear from you, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
This document titled Order to Remedy claims it was issued pursuant to the section 15.2.2 of the Building Code Act 1992, SO 1992, Chapter 23. Can anyone point to that section? It only takes a gaze at the contents page of this act to attest that it does not exist. So how can you issue an order under non-existent legislation?
What I'm saying is you provide all the information to us,
I am providing it.
but it's not a back and forth.
Okay.
So it's you provide your information, then we will make notes about the staff and the municipal or the committee. Well, then we have the ability to ask questions of what your information that they would like to hear.
The
Okay?
fact that this document claims to be issued pursuant to non-existent law makes it a forgery and further questions its legitimacy. Order to remedy may be issued under section 15.9 of the building code by a building inspector, while order to repair may be issued under section 15.22 by a property standards officer. Which one is it in this case? Order to remedy is not within the sphere of authority of the property standards officer or the property standards committee. The Building Code Act, section 15.1 clearly identifies that the Property Standards Committee's authority is limited to section 15.1 to 15.8 inclusive, and it has no authority beyond that, and specifically not within section 15.9, under which an order to remedy may be issued. It is worth taking note of section 13.8 of the Council and Committee Procedure Bylaw 116/2017. The head of council or the chair shall ensure that the decisions of council or the committee are in conformity with the laws and bylaws governing the activities of the corporation. It was the Reeve, the CAO, and the property standards officer who had forged these documents by reportedly actually fixing their signatures to them, declaring them to be a legitimate bylaw and a legitimate order, and it was employees of the township who have uttered to these forged documents with intent to defraud. As a result, I can see this conduct triggering section 367, 368, and 380 of the Criminal Code Act. Since this body has been not been legitimately established or empowered, and thus has no authority to make legally binding decision, I do not see any point in addressing further deficiencies and illegalities and any other issues arising from the conduct of the bylaw enforcement officer, property standards officer Bruce Barklebank, and other township employees. Respectfully submitted by Ranko Marco Joey, Kinwingham, Ontario, Canada, on this day of January 2011, 2019.
Okay. Is there any questions from the committee for the appellant? Bronco? Yes, Councilor Foster?
So that's all the rebuttal for this complaint before us, the property standards complaint? That is your defense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No?
Thank you.
We have, sorry,
Councilor Foster?
head of council, or head of property standards. Do we have the right to cross-examine or to ask questions again of Bruce?
We can ask questions of both the municipal staff, who in this particular is Bruce, or Ronco. Yes, we can do that. Yep.
I guess it would be some of the allegations that the code sections that he was saying that don't exist. I just wanted to get clarification of that, what that might have meant.
Well, so I at this point, my position as chair is that doesn't necessarily result in if that's a concern from the committee, from going out of this committee, then we can definitely provide that direction. And obviously, I'm sure that if there is issues that the appellant has raised, this committee is more than happy to pass some of those concerns on to council to let them decide on what that. But at this point, I think we want to keep it only with regards to the incident we have on file. Like whether it's valid or not valid isn't this committee's decision. We've been provided information based on what municipal staff have provided. We've got information from the appellant. That's where I think we need to stay to, and we'll go from there. Please provide me if members of the committee think we are different. I'm more than happy to hear it.
I agree.
Councilor Palmer?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'm disappointed that you haven't given us, reasons for your appeal, like given us, different sections of the building code. That's fine. That'll come that'll come to light someday in a different area, different time. But, we're here to hear you talk about your place, talk about how maybe you obviously disagree with the inspector. That's what we want to hear. It helps us in our decision. We all came here, we're all in this committee, and we're not, we haven't made up our mind. We've been given one point of view. We want to hear your point of view. And then we make a decision, or there's lots of answers to our decision.
Well, it seems to me that there's one basic difference here. You believe that you're a legitimately constituted body.
Yeah.
I do not.
And therefore, if that is the case, then the appellant Ronco has his options to go
Yes, he does.
to do that in another place. So based on, so we also have, there has been presented, what was presented to, what has been also presented to the members of council as opposed to the actual appeal, and shows obviously also the actual form of the appeal for the Property Standards Committee for why we're here today. So basically, the committee has many options. So the committee can maintain the order as it indicates today. They can modify the order as it indicates today. They can withdraw the order, or any way of that. Like it's up to the committee to decide. So
Is that through a motion?
it is through a motion. Yeah, it's a motion of the committee. Yeah.
I wish to make a motion.
Okay.
On the evidence presented to us today.
Yep.
And from the evidence provided from the plaintiff, I heard nothing of regard to compliance or regard to the actual infraction, and no appeal before this board for an extension in order to comply. So with only having the information that I have, I suggest, or my motion is to confirm the charges that we have before us. And I do not foresee any length of time of extension is required when it was not asked for. I'm not happy the way this is going, but unfortunately, we can only go with the information we have.
So just because there's lots of discussion and talk in there, just blatantly specify what your motion is.
My motion is to confirm and not to extend firmly the bylaw infraction, and not to amend it to any further term that none was asked for. And
Okay.
so, yes.
Just so I want to make sure the committee is clear, does the committee understand what the motion is?
This gets it on the table, right?
Yeah, so it's just been moved. Is there a seconder for that motion?
To get it on the table, yes.
Okay, so Councillor Palmer seconds. Any discussion with regards to the motion? Councillor Palmer?
Mr. Chairman, I seconded it to get it on the table so we can further discuss it if there's anything more to be said. And I'm a firm believer in given opportunity. I'm not a swift action person. And, you know, if Mr. Markovich, I would like to give him a bit more time because we've had the confrontation. He's understanding more of us. We've heard from him, not to the degree that we'd like to, because we want, you know, reasons for the appeal, not these technicality things. That'll happen at another time. But I would like to give a bit more time and extend it a bit. And there you go.
Just, sorry, I'm not sure I mean by extending. Are you concerning extending the violation or the time in order to make a
To
decision?
conform.
To conform.
Sorry.
Councillor Faulkner?
To that point, I haven't heard any request,
I know.
and I can't anticipate someone else's thought process. I was given the opportunity to supply me with a decision, with information that I can make a decision that he was either wrongfully or rightfully in non-compliance. I've only seen one side of the information and a refusal on being asked by this council, by yourself, for a second time, for him to provide the information that we would need to make our decisions. If we don't get the information to make our decisions, we can only make it on the information that we have. This has been dealt with 3 or 4 times. How many times without giving this council or this property committee the information or the stuff that we need to make our decisions? A denial is a denial. I mean, you have the right to defend yourself, and you have the right to give up defending yourself if you so choose to. I find it that he's not provided us. He has other. He only provided us with information about another process that is not before this council. We're only here to see, it's like a parking ticket. Did you park here? Yeah. Do you have anything to say about it? I can spout off provincial legislation, but it's not going to get me out of the parking ticket unless I give them a reason why I parked there, and maybe, okay, I see why you parked there, it was emergency, blah, 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 or here's a compliance. Do you know why you shouldn't be in compliance? No, I refuse to answer those questions. So I'm going to go, but we're going to go by the information that we're given. Whether we have other personal feelings about it or not, I don't see. He didn't ask for any extension. I don't see how we could give one.
Okay.
Because we're not being asked to give an extension. We're being asked to consider what's on here, and an extension was not asked for. So.
Is there any other comments from committee members that wants to talk about? We do have a motion on the table. Okay, so I will have, just to clarify, we'll make sure the motion is read again.
Sharing, and correct me if the wording, but based on the evidence presented today and previous evidence of the complainant, the Property Standards Committee hereby confirms the charges and not extend the order and not grant any extension to the order.
Okay. So that was moved by Councillor Faulkner and seconded by Councillor Palmer. For committee members, Faulkner and Palmer. Okay, at this point, I will call, if there's nothing else, I will call the vote. All those in favor of that motion? Carried. Yep.
I request that to be
Order the vote.
Technically, you should have done that before the vote was asked for. Okay, at this point, that the Property Standards Committee agrees that there's no further business before the committee, the meeting is hereby adjourned at 2:40 PM. Mover for that. Member Palmer. Seconder. Committee member McBurney. All those in favor? Carried.